The truth is, adding value will never go out of style. Hello, and thanks for joining us for another Five Things podcast. Today we've got a longtime friend of Ed Yancey, who's been in franchising, business ownership for a long time, banking in the past, which I just learned this morning. It's a cold, rainy Raleigh, North Carolina day here in the iWatch Security Brand Ascent Media headquarters. So, Ed, thank you so much for dropping in and joining us.
Thank you, Brian, for having me here. I'm looking forward.
Ed's one of those guys, speaking for me personally, you meet Ed the first time, you just like him. He's just a good guy that I've never heard anybody talk bad about you, except for maybe Sean.
You haven't met my wife yet, then.
That's funny. I'm joking about Sean. But other than that, where'd you grow up at?
Right here in North Carolina. Born and raised, yes. I was born in Smithfield, North Carolina. Moved to Greenville when I was about 5 and stayed there till 15, and then we moved to Raleigh. So I went to high school right up the street here at Millbrook High School.
Oh, wow, okay.
Turned around and went back to Greenville for college, and got out of college in 85 and went to work for Wachovia Bank.
If you've ever gone to ECU, you owe Ed a lot of thank yous because he started the trend. Definitely started the trend. And so graduate college?
Yes, and went right into banking and was in banking for about 8 or 9 years. But I was always entrepreneurial. So banking was a little bit of a straitjacket. It was a lot of process and loan administration. But I got to see a lot of businesses. SBA lending was my specialty at the bank.
Okay.
So that's kind of how I got into franchising, because I got to see a lot of franchise concepts at an early age and how well they performed, and it got my gears turning as it related to franchising.
Nice. So you always had that itch when you were in corporate America.
Absolutely.
You kind of knew that there was a restlessness inside of you.
Absolutely.
And I think that, honestly, I think most people that are entrepreneurial or self-employed, you feel kind of suffocated in that environment after a while.
That's right.
And for all the good things I liked about the military, I felt absolutely suffocated that I just couldn't leave or quit or,
right.
I could look at a little chart and say, if I do this for 20 years, I'm going to make X.
Yep.
Even if I'm the best at what I do, it's really limited.
Right.
So that's great to know. So you get into banking, you're seeing business and all this kind of stuff. As far as family goes, how'd you meet your bride?
So I met my wife in Greenville. I had just started working at the bank, and she was at East Carolina University. She'd been there just a year, and we met and we dated for many years. She left school and also went into banking as well. So we dated for about 8 years before we finally married in 95, and have 4 children, beautiful kids that are a lot smarter and better kids than I was when I was their age. So
that's awesome.
We got a great family.
And you got a young rock star coming up, right?
I got a couple of rock stars.
Okay.
Both of my sons are very accomplished guitarists. My oldest son, who's 18, is at Appalachian State right now. He's been in a couple of different bands, put out a couple of EPs. He's actually playing a gig this weekend in Chapel Hill. So he gets around and makes the circuit, and they got a good following.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And he's obviously passionate about it.
Oh yeah, that's what he's studying at Appalachian's music production and music business side of music.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Need to connect you with a friend of mine, Kamara Jackson. Her son's all about the guitar right now. Just constantly, But that's awesome. I didn't realize you had 4 as well. 2
girls and 2 boys.
Okay. Yeah. Expensive. Very expensive,
to say the least.
Yeah. So you get married. You start your first venture. Doing what?
So when I was at the bank, as I mentioned, I was an SBA lender specialist. Most bankers don't like that program because it's a government-backed program, but it's where the bank puts their risky deals like restaurants, hotels, etc. So I got to look at a lot of the P&Ls on restaurant concepts. And I always knew that I wanted to own a restaurant. I have the hospitality gene. And I one day was out with my girlfriend, now my wife. We were over on the east side of Raleigh, and we stopped in at over on Capitol Boulevard at a shopping center to get something to eat because I was looking for a place to live. And she was like, "What do you want to eat?" And I said, "You choose." And she chose Jersey Mike's subs. And it was the first Jersey Mike's in North Carolina. It was about the 16th Jersey Mike's in the country. I ate the product, fell in love with it, saw that they were franchising, so I reached out to Jersey Mike's And I bought a franchise. I was the second franchisee in North Carolina and the 18th franchisee in their system.
Nice.
One of the cool things about Jersey Mike's at that time, because it was so small and young, I got to know the founder and the owner, Peter Cancro, who still owns it today. We're still very close. Peter and I hit it off really well, and we opened up our restaurant, and it was very successful. It was right over here on Creedmoor Road in North Raleigh, and we just had a lot of people that were interested in Jersey Mike's. This is 1993. A lot of people started getting interested in Jersey Mike's, and so Peter would have them call me. I was still working at the bank when I opened up the restaurant. Peter would have them reach out to me, and I'd have them come to the bank. They'd sit in the office like you and I are doing right now. We'd talk about franchising. They needed financing, and so I knew how to do the SBA program. So I
understand both sides of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I started creating business plans, and it was kind of a turnkey. You'd come in and you'd want financing. I'd do your business plan, your projections, get all of your personal information, put it together in the SBA package, all the forms, hand it to you, and say, now you take it back to your bank. And it became a rubber stamp. We just started doing a lot of deals. So
Wow.
throughout the 90s, I was at the bank for a year, and we were doing a lot of these transactions. And I finally said, Peter, I don't want to work the rest of my life in the bank. So he made me the first area director. So I got to share in the royalties and the franchise fees of anything that grew in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a great run. We opened up 110 restaurants throughout the 90s. I owned and operated 14 restaurants here in North Carolina.
Wow.
In 2001, we'd pretty much maxed out on development in the metro areas. So I sold my contract back to Jersey Mike's. I had 5 restaurants at the time, and decided that I was just going to focus on the next chapter of my life. But Peter reached out and said, why don't you move to New Jersey? So we packed the family up, moved to New Jersey, and I headed up franchising in New Jersey for about 5 years.
Okay.
But it was a great experience. So we went from 17 restaurants to about 400 when I finally left Jersey Mike's in '06.
Oh, that's awesome. And again, I every time I go there, get the big old Italian. I mean, I love that thing.
Got to get the juice on it.
Yeah, oil and vinegar.
Yeah, absolutely.
And oregano.
Absolutely.
Making me hungry thinking about it. But from 17 to 400, that's awesome.
Yes.
And
it was a
but
tremendous run.
What do you, without jumping in our topics, let me rephrase that. I won't go there because I don't want to jump right into the topic. Let me ask you this. What do you think that has happened in the past that you've learned from that was maybe a negative situation at the time?
Well, I mean, in my life, I've had over 20 restaurants. I have 2 today.
Lots of garbage to deal with when you own 20 restaurants,
Absolutely.
I'm sure.
So, I mean, I've made some mistakes location-wise, picking the wrong spot. I've made mistakes people-wise. And, so you learn from those and you get wiser. But, the restaurant business is a very difficult business. But, if you have a successful restaurant, it's very rewarding. But, trying to, navigate through those waters, can be somewhat challenging.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can see that. It's a very competitive industry. And personally, I think when the economy shifts, restaurants are probably in danger a little bit because, that's disposable, convenient expenses, I would think.
It is. And the restaurant business today, I mean, I'm sure every business owner says this is much different than it was, 26 years ago when I got started in it. Now you have third party, which is just a complete game changer in the restaurant industry, where you've got your Grubhubs, your Postmates, your Uber Eats, and most restaurateurs don't have a choice. They have to participate in third-party delivery, because if they don't, then their competitors are going to be doing it. And it's a very expensive platform.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's no different than Toys R Us didn't want to get on the internet, and so they're no longer around.
Exactly.
And so that's a great learning lesson, is that as business owners, we have to constantly adapt and improve. And, at the end of the day, we have to cater to the client.
Right.
If we don't, we can't take care of employees. We can't take care of the baby, which is the business.
Absolutely.
So you better pay attention to your client. You better serve them, and you better make it convenient. And one of the things Gary Vaynerchuk says that I love, he says reduce the friction. He's talking about absorbing his content. He wants to eliminate friction. So if you want to read it, listen to it, watch a video, he wants to create content every way he can for media and for his brand. But it's really the same thing with the business.
Yeah, absolutely.
So those are some negative things you've learned from. Talking to employees, there's a real big, let's say the $15 minimum wage.
Sure.
And honestly, when I think of I don't have anybody that I pay less than 15 an hour. But I'm a different business. I don't
Right.
own a restaurant.
Right.
If I did own a restaurant, looking from the outside in, like there's not a whole lot of people in a restaurant that are going to deserve better than $15 an hour.
Right.
You lower the fries, you click the little timer, you push them up, 3 shakes of the salt. I mean, it's not a skilled position. But that being said, coming from the horse's mouth, if you don't mind
Sure.
being the horse here, I mean,
Yeah, not a problem.
when one of my favorite sayings is when you provide maximum effort, and then you're never going to have to worry about minimum wage.
Right.
So from a business owner that is historically paying a low wage to workers upon entry, what would you say to those workers?
No, I mean, you're 100% correct. The reality in America is minimum wage is definitely on the rise. I mean, I work at a lot of different concepts throughout the country. I'm working with one out of Boston right now, and minimum wage in Boston's 13. Last concept I was with was out of LA, $15 an hour in LA. I've told my managers that's just, I understand. We can't start people at $7.25 an hour anymore. We have to pay a little bit better wage. And what we try to do is set the expectations when we're interviewing people that my primary concern, as you mentioned, dropping the fries and putting the salt on, that's important. That's a task. But to me, it's more about the guest experience. And that's what I hammer home with my managers and with the hourly folks when we have meetings, is that whatever you're doing, whatever task, that's not nearly as important as the guest in the restaurant. So don't ignore the guest because you feel like you have to get your task done first. You drop everything if the guest needs assistance, if they have a problem or challenge. I tell everybody, you're empowered to make refunds, make the guest happy. Don't ever let them leave dissatisfied, because I don't want a customer's money if they feel like they didn't get their money's worth from me. I'll be willing to eat that. So we do reward the employees that demonstrate the hospitality gene, as I mentioned earlier, because we feel like that's invaluable. So, and it kind of feeds on itself. So if I have managers that instill and coach that, and then we have hourlies that also do it, the others around, all ships rise.
Sure. Yeah. So I guess the point would be that when you work hard and you've got the right attitude, you're going to be more valuable to the employer.
That's exactly right.
So, those people, and I guess this is where the debate comes in, I guess, is that to me, as a business owner, when I have someone that I value, I don't want to lose them. And probably part of the not being able to get away with minimum wage is supply and demand. There's so many openings for jobs now because the economy is so great that to attract a good caliber person, as a business owner, we're willing to pay more to get that good quality person in. And that's the beautiful thing. It's supply and demand.
Right.
You don't, in my opinion, you don't have to necessarily legislate that when things are good, because, we want the best people we can have, because then our clients are going to have a better experience.
You're absolutely right. We're at a 50-year low for unemployment right now. So every retailer, restaurant, clothing store, you name it, is all trying to attract that diamond in the rough.
Which drives up wages.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So everybody's winning.
Absolutely.
So won't get into a bunch of political stuff there, but at the end of the day, it's good for everybody involved.
Right.
And the customer ends up winning because they're getting a better experience as well.
That's right.
So I've said a long time ago that I think if I completely relocated to, I don't know, Boise, Idaho, and I worked at a McDonald's, let's say I'm making minimum wage, barely getting by, I would want to find a franchise or corporate-owned store. And I believe with all my heart, in 3, 4, 5, 6 years, I'm going to be running stuff.
Sure.
And to me, that comes back to attitude and work ethic. And so I think that there's opportunity, even starting at the very, very bottom of a McDonald's or something. If you're willing to work hard and you got the right attitude, there's going to be owners and managers, and at some point somebody's going to notice, and it may be someone that walks in the front door.
Right.
May not even be the restaurateur that really sees it in you, but maybe a guy that comes there once in a while says, you know what, this kid's always got a great attitude, always working hard, smiling. Like, I want this type of talent. I could work with this young guy.
Right.
So that's another thing is you may not have a boss or management or somebody that's appreciating you right now, but if you keep grinding, and doing good work, someone's going to take notice.
Absolutely. And then, that's where I think setting the expectations up front during the interview process, because you're absolutely right. I tell anybody that comes to work as an hourly employee or even a manager, I do not expect you to be here the rest of your life. But if you'd like to be, there's opportunity, but, here's what you need to demonstrate so that, you can have a great career path here, but I don't want to hold anybody back.
Sure. So I think it's awesome you set up expectations and you have that good conversation with people ahead of time.
Absolutely.
Even coming back to dating or employees or this and that, one of the things that I've learned over the years is set the expectations on the front end the best you can.
Right.
And this is where I'm at. This is what I'm expecting. This is what I'm not expecting from you. And gosh, everything just seems to go smoother when you do that.
And then you reinforce and coach it as, because every day people have circumstances in their lives, at home and everything else. And that's what we, try to tell people, it's hard to put those things on the back burner when you come into work, but you got to be on point when the customer comes in. It's about being guest focused and it's about caring. Mm-hmm. And if they can demonstrate, those two qualities, yes, I'll definitely pay them well to work at my restaurants.
Sure. Let me ask you this. What are a few things that you love to see in an employee? And I beat my chest about initiative, because there's no shortage of great ideas. I've got lots of things that I know will help or be good or this and that. But I can't physically do everything.
Right. It goes back to caring. I mean, I don't really necessarily need them to demonstrate initiative. I mean, I want them to get their tasks done and try to find something else to do. But again, just demonstrating care for their manager, care for the other employees, care for the guests, like we talked about, care for the quality of the product they put out. I think the ones that demonstrate that are the ones that have been with us, the longest, and we definitely want to take care of them.
Mm-hmm. I could definitely see that. So that's good advice to anybody coming up.
Absolutely.
Work hard and take care of the client.
And like you said, it'll get recognized. I mean, and shame on me and my managers if they don't recognize and reward that kind of individual, and if they go on to someplace else, that's our loss.
Sure. And the one thing I'll say to that is maybe to that employee that's out there in that scenario is demonstrate some patience as well. I mean, Ed Yancey has a lot going on.
Sure.
And he's thinking about this. He's got a CPA, he's got tax stuff, he's got the switch in accounting departments, you got, new credit card processing, you got equipment goes down,
You be listening on my phone?
The camera system's not, I can't get online. Business owners, they deal with so much,
Right.
and so just demonstrate a little patience if you don't feel like you're getting that recognition too.
Exactly.
It might not happen in a week.
That's true.
So coming back to that, you end up kind of Jersey Mike's kind of runs its course.
Yep.
And then so you start looking around.
Well, I left Jersey Mike's in 2006. We were living in New Jersey. We wanted to get back home. Peter at the time couldn't wrap his head around me working remotely, so I left Jersey Mike's and did some consulting in the Philly market with a concept, and then Dunkin' Donuts offered me a position to handle the Southeast for franchising. So came back home. They moved me back to North Carolina, covered the Southeast, and I've been back since 2006. And it was when I came back to North Carolina that I was pursuing Char Grill, the hamburger concept here in Raleigh, and purchased the rights to that concept. And we grew to about 5 or 6 restaurants from a franchise standpoint, but we launched in 2008, which was when the economy took a tailspin.
Sure.
And so, we kind of just limped along, but we got a few restaurants open. And like I said, I've got 2 of those today that I own and operate. And we have franchisees in Davidson and one at the airport and one in Cary.
Okay. Awesome. And I can definitely vouch for Char Grill. I mean, great food. Definitely enjoy the concept and amazing fries, but the burgers are really, really good.
They got steak trimmings in them. They're cooked on an open char rock grill. It's been around since 1960. When I was in high school, I used to go there and eat, and that's what drew me back to it.
You're making me hungry again. So, the one thing I will say about this is that as we start gearing towards the five things about choosing a franchise,
Sure.
Is that, from starting iWatch Security from nothing, even knowing the industry, even having lots of experience in this, you have to create everything.
Right.
And processes and presentations and standard operating procedures and having your graphics made up and just having your contracts done. I mean, just countless amounts of things that you have to think about. Whereas when you have a franchise, everything's kind of laid out for you. Not kind of, it's laid out for you. Or I guess a good franchise.
It's a proven system.
Right.
Absolutely.
So with that, having a franchise is going to increase your chances of success because they've, just see what Ed did, do what Ed does.
Right.
If there's any questions, talk to Ed.
Right.
Talk to your guy who runs your territory who does this all the time.
Exactly.
So with that, I'll turn this over to you and let you go right into what are the five things that people need to think about when choosing a franchise?
Well, first and foremost, you have to have a passion for the product or service that the franchise is offering. So with Jersey Mike's, when I started with them, I walked into the restaurant, ate the food, and fell in love with it. So, sometimes I'll get people that will come to me that have never eaten at my restaurant, but they're just looking for something they can invest in to get a return on, and that's really not my ideal candidate. So you really want to spend some time, doing your homework, making sure, what the product is you're selling is something that you firmly believe in.
Mm-hmm. And enjoy, probably.
Absolutely.
The old saying, when you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
That's exactly right.
if you hate cooking or cleaning or customers,
exactly.
Service, you probably want to find something else. So that's number one.
Yep.
Number two.
Culture of the concept, so you may from the outside see, some franchise that you really like, but then as you start to do your due diligence, there may be some things about the concept that you don't like. You may meet some of the leadership and they may tell you it's our way or the highway, and because you're entrepreneurial, that may not hit you right, and you may decide to go the independent route and do it yourself. So I think anybody investigating a franchise, it takes, I tell people, 3 to 6 months to make that decision, because not only are you doing due diligence on the concept is doing their due diligence on you. They want to make sure, especially in the restaurant business, that you have the hospitality gene, that you're prepared to coach and mentor those hourly employees. So it's a process, but both sides need to mesh.
Sure, and they have to protect their brand.
Absolutely.
If there's Johnny Rotten opens up a Char Grill in Fayetteville and everybody is talking bad about it, all of a sudden it makes you look bad in Raleigh.
Exactly.
So that's a good point.
Yep.
Number three,
leadership of the brand. Get to know the CEO, the chief operations officer, all the leadership behind the brand, because sometimes concepts start and it may just be Ed Yancey. He opened up one of something and it did really well, and so now all the people are interested in doing it too, but there may not be a lot of depth or background in that one individual. If the brand is one individual, it can be a short-lived franchise brand. So understand the background of the people that are leading the brand and what the support and processes are in place.
Well, that's a great tip. I would think that a lot of businesses work because of a specific personality or a business owner or something, and when you remove that person, the brand is not as powerful.
Exactly.
So that's a great tip. Number four.
This is going to sound stupid, but make sure it's a money-making model. Definitely, every franchisor is required to give you a document called the Franchise Disclosure Document, or FDD. There's a lot of information in there. The item 19 is the financial information, but you also want to speak to franchisees, because the franchisor is going to put the best looking information in their FDD that makes the opportunity look attractive. So you want to peel the onion back and speak with franchisees and make sure you understand at a store level what that concept is doing.
Okay. And what a realistic expectation
Absolutely.
is. So you don't want to buy into the pie in the sky, because, you and I both know there's always things that come up that you're not expecting that might not be in that, report.
Absolutely.
That you're going to have to deal with. And lastly, number five.
Well, as we've talked about throughout this podcast, being a people in the people side of the business, making sure that you have what I call the intestinal fortitude. So young people starting out, if they haven't managed a lot of people, it can be daunting because they get tested. When you have 15 to 20 hourly employees working for you, they are going to try every way possible to take advantage, no call, no show, things like that.
Sure.
So, it's great if you've gotten some of that experience under your belt, and you just may be the type of person that, can handle that and can, positively coach and mentor those people to get the best out of them. So, that to me is very important. I get guys that have been working in corporate America their whole lives, and they've got, big 401k, and now they want to do the next thing in their life, the next chapter in their life. And I say, why the restaurant business? But if that's what you want, great. What I would recommend you do is spend a couple weeks, behind the counter, seeing what it's all about, and decide then if it's really what you want to do. Because a lot of people, when they buy at a late stage in life and get into the restaurant business, they figure out real quick that, it's not what they were cut out to do. So, but some people are, get along famously with it.
Sure.
But I just tell people, do your homework, spend some time immersing yourself in the concept and the brand, even if it's like Jiffy Lube or whatever, if that's what you want to do, then spend some time in the unit and understand what all goes on in a day in the life of that franchisee.
And I think mentally being prepared to do everything that you have to do in that restaurant.
Absolutely. You need to be the expert. You're exactly right. You need to, a lot of people say, I don't want to do all the training. I got another guy that'll do that. You want to be the expert in the business so that you can recognize when you walk in the things that aren't going right, the things that aren't being done well. And so I think that's very critical that I tell new franchisees, plan to spend a year, every day doing the job of being a franchisee. After a year, you can start developing more. You've built your bench of people. You've coached and mentored them. So now you're prepared to grow and continue.
I get the impression a lot of people think they're going to start a business and hire this other person and they're going to do it.
Mailbox money. They think they're going to get mailbox money.
Yeah, and
the check's just going to roll in and they're going to manage from home.
And maybe there are opportunities out there like that, but I'm not willing to have my success or failure rely on Joe, who I'm hiring, because at the end of the day, I need to know everything going on in that business.
That's exactly right.
And Tillman Fertitta, who you probably know being in the restaurant industry and this and that, billionaire, talks about when he walks into a restaurant, he's just starting to, things are popping at him left and right. And that's because he's in the game.
Yes.
The guy's a billionaire.
Yeah.
But I think that is a testament to what you're talking about. I know when you walk into your restaurant, you see the trash cans full.
Absolutely.
And you know what? There's 3 fries in the foyer or something that, that probably drives you nuts when you walk in. Like, am I the only guy in this place that sees these fries on the ground? But in any case, I know you got to get going here, Ed, and I certainly appreciate you stopping in and sharing some great content with us. And by the way, if you're considering franchises or considering starting your own deal, Ed would probably be open to talking, help you out. And other than that, thanks for joining us for another 5 Things podcast. Make it a great day.
Thanks, Brian.
Hello, this is Brian Smith, and thank you for watching. Please subscribe for more valuable content.